I personally think one of the stupidest things about the NBA today is the way their head coaches are treated. It's like a nonstop revolving door for 3/4 of the organizations in the league, and it's ridiculous. Why would you hire a guy just to fire him 2 or 3 years later? Especially in the current NBA environment. Knowing that only a few teams really can have any type of design or thoughts on winning a championship. And with all the super teaming and buddying up and everything else, that's the way it's been for largely the last decade, and it's going to continue to be unless the league does something about it. So why are so many teams so quick to fire a head coach? Like, how do you sour on a guy so quickly? And you can say, well, maybe it's not going well. We sucked before he got here, and we still sucked. Well, you know what? Maybe you suck because your players suck. Maybe you suck because you don't have any stars. Maybe you suck because you brought in the wrong coach for the type of personnel that you have. Any variety of things. But these coaches in the NBA are so quickly disposed of that they become disposable, that it becomes a negative working environment for all parties involved. For coaches, they've always got to be worried about their job security because it could go just like that. And from a player's standpoint, it's not healthy because they know with their big fat ass, undeserved in many cases, massive guaranteed contracts, hey, I'm a scrub and I'm making $15 million a flipping year. I'm making 3 to 4 times what the damn head coach is. They'll fire him a hell of a lot quicker than they can fire me. So it creates a sense of entitlement and superiority for the players that is overall not good for everybody. Now, I don't get it. The NBA is by far the worst to its coaches. Like, you'll have NFL coaches that get fired after 2 or 3 years, but it's not nearly as big of an issue as it is with the NBA. Which brings us to Dwane Casey. I don't even know what to say. Like, I can understand being disappointed with how your team's season finished. And I can understand the frustration of getting swept by a LeBron-led team for the second straight season in the playoffs. I can understand that. But that's a reason enough to fire your head coach? Now, let me get this straight. Dwane Casey, the same guy who's been at the helm for 7 seasons, unlike a lot of head coaches in the NBA, he was actually given time, he was actually given a chance, and he rewarded the organization for doing so. His record over 7 seasons, 320 wins, 238 losses. That's well above 500. That stacks up there very well in the hierarchy of NBA head coaches. He made the playoffs with that team 5 consecutive seasons. No matter how much you want to talk about it because of Drake and all this other crap, the fact is Toronto is a Canadian city. The league doesn't care that much about them. Big name stars don't typically choose to go there. They either are drafted there, traded to there, or you get scrubs that get massively overpaid in order to go there. But Dwane Casey helped lead this team to the playoffs 5 straight years, 4 division titles in the past 5 years, the last 3 seasons, consecutive 50-plus win seasons each time, which, oh, by the way, are the first 3 in franchise history. You've been around since the 95-96 season. You know, back in the days of Mighty Mouse, Damon Stoudemire. Oh, boy! You have 3 50-win seasons in the history of your franchise. They happened in the last 3 years, all with Dwane Casey as the head coach. And this year, you win a franchise record 59 games. You go 59-23, and not only do you win your division for the 4th time in 5 years, you end up with the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. This dude is easily the best coach in the history of the Raptors organization. And it's not close. Sam Mitchell can eat a dick. Dwane Casey leads the team to a 59-win season, was just named by the coaches' vote as the NBA Coach of the Year, for whatever that's worth. And now he's out of a damn job. Again, I understand the frustration of getting swept by LeBron's team, especially a LeBron-led team that barely squeaked by in their first-round season or series with Indiana in 7 games. They barely got out of that series. And if, frankly, Nate McMillan would have been a little bit better at times with the situation he put his team in, it wouldn't have come down to the Raptors getting swept by the Cavs, because the Cavs wouldn't have made it to the second round, and that's a fact. But you're going to sit there and get so butthurt and bothered by getting beaten by LeBron again, getting swept by LeBron again, that your answer is to fire the best head coach you've ever had, that just led you to a 59-win season and got you to the number 1 seed in the East. That is stupid. And do you know why that's stupid? Because Masai Ujiri is stupid. Who is that? I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Former NBA Executive of the Year with the Denver Nuggets, who then conned the Raptors into giving them way too damn much over way too damn many. The general manager of the Raptors. Masai. He most certainly is not a messiah. This is one of these examples of the general manager can't take the blame. The general manager refuses to take the fall, even though it is primarily his fault. He's going to blame somebody else, in this case, the head coach. You know, X's and O's are great to a certain degree, but at some point in time, you ultimately win with the Jimmies and the Joes. It's about the players, and in the NBA, it's about the stars. And people sit here and pump up Masai to all these nth degrees and blow him up so full of smoke. Now, help me understand this. The 2 best players the team has are DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. He was responsible for bringing neither one of them to Toronto. So he comes to Toronto, and they're already there. So his foundation was already put in place for him. But I guess he's a great general manager. I think about his first actual draft. 2013 didn't really count because the first round pick was traded away to get Kyle Lowry in before by the previous regime. His first draft in 2014. Remember Bruno Caboclo? However the hell you say his name? Fran Fraschilla thought so highly of him. He said he's about 3 years away from being 3 years away. You take him with the 20th overall pick. That's the GM all day, who is a former international scout. He out-sleuthed himself. He passed on other guys in round 1, like Rodney Hood. Oh, another international player, Clint Capella. I wonder what the Rockets think about that. Bogdan Bogdanovic, one of the fucking flying 300 Bogdanoviches in the league. Justin Anderson. These were all guys that Masai passed on in round 1 for some young athletic wing out of Brazil who couldn't play. And then you go to round 2, he takes DeAndre Daniels out of UConn and passes on guys like Spencer Dinwiddie and Jeremy Grant. Oh, and Nikola Jokic and Jordan Clarkson. That was his first real draft in charge. You look at that draft and you assume the guy's an idiot and not long for his position, and most certainly in over his damn head. Now, over the past couple of years, he's been able to find a couple of nice role players in the draft, but you could potentially make an argument that the most important player that Masai has drafted during his time as the Raptors general manager wasn't even a guy that he drafted at all. Look at that catch. That was impressive, huh? It was an undrafted free agent in Fred VanVleet. Rockford, Auburn's own. Hot diggity damn. But somehow Dwane Casey's to blame. Somehow Dwane Casey's at fault. Somehow it's about Dwane Casey. No, here's what it's about. It's about the fact you don't have LeBron James in the Eastern Conference. Period. Plain and simple. This goes back to like the 90s with Jordan and the Bulls. Why didn't Ewing and other teams make it out of the East? Because the Chicago Bulls had Michael Jordan, and then they had Scottie Pippen, and nobody else could match that. End of story. Period. Just imagine if we go back in the day to when the Knicks, in 91, they get swept by the Bulls in the first round. Then in 92, they lose to them in 7 games. I know it's not back-to-back sweeps, but imagine if the Knicks fired Riley after the 92 season because he had a couple of cracks at the Bulls in the playoffs and he just didn't get the job done. How stupid and ridiculous would that be? Really ridiculous. But it's somewhat equivalent here, even though I know Riley had championships from back at his time with the Lakers. Let's not get too deep into the weeds here. But you don't have LeBron James. And ultimately, when you look at this, a simple fact of the matter is there are only a couple of teams in the way the current NBA is designed that are actually going to have a chance to win a title. There's only a couple. You got 2 of them out west. It's the Rockets and the Warriors. And oh, what a surprise. The Rockets and the Warriors are playing for the right to get to the NBA Finals. In the East, it's been assumed Celtics and Cavs all year long. Even with some of the injuries, it still ends up being Celtics and Cavs. And even you probably throw the Celtics out, and frankly, you throw the Cavs out too. You only got 2 teams that are really viable as potential NBA champions. You want to throw LeBron in there because of some of his history? Fine. Then you've got 3 teams. When you look at Toronto, Masai Ujiri inherited the 2 best players he had, then decided he wanted to go all in with 2 guys that weren't really superstars. And he wonders why. They don't have anybody that can match up with LeBron. They don't have anybody that is close to an equivalent of level of star as LeBron. And then they wonder why they get swept by LeBron's team in the playoffs. And they wonder why people are calling it LeBronto now. This is how Masai Ujiri thinks you build a championship team. You go acquire Serge Ibaka and give him $65 million over 3 years because you're a stupid fuck. You go give Jonas Valanciunas $64 million over 4 years as a role-playing big guy. He's a good player, but he's not a great player. And because of the stupidity of today's NBA, you give him $16 million a year to be a role player. This is the same guy that got a hard-on for Damari Carroll's 12 points a game that he just had to bring him in for $60 million over 4 years. And how did that work out for the Raptors? Time after time after time, this guy has made poor decisions in terms of the team. He is the one that ultimately assembled the team. He is the one that ultimately went all in with a team whose best players are DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry as the 2 stars. In DeRozan, a all-star level wing that can't shoot, and Kyle Lowry, a kind of pit bull type of guy, a hard effort type of guy. But who does he really make better with the numbers that he puts up? And that is a fair question. Serge Ibaka, who is always massively overpaid and doesn't bring nearly to the table what people try to think that he does. Jonas Valanciunas, who again is okay. He's a nice player, but I'm not paying nice $16 million a year. And if you are, you better get more than nice out of him. It's like a white Tristan Thompson with a little more offensive firepower. Like, you look at that, like, that's your core team right there. Who in the fuck thinks that's an NBA champion? Nobody with a brain. Well, Drake, but I stand by what I said. I'm kidding. The problem here is not the head coach. The problem here is the roster just isn't good enough. It doesn't have the transformative player like a LeBron James, like a James Harden, like a Kevin Durant, like a Steph Curry, like a Chris Paul. They don't have those type of guys. They have DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, guys that you pay at a superstar level because you had to do that in order to keep them there, but they are not true superstars. You have a team full of second, third, and fourth guys, and you're trying to pass them off on as 1A and 1B and number 1 and number 2, and it doesn't work that way. And then you devote way too much to way too little, way too much money to way too little production in guys like Ibaka and Valanciunas, and that's your best. And you wonder why you're getting swept by the freaking Cavs. You can't guard LeBron, and then a couple of other people figure it out and get involved a little bit. You're going to get your ass kicked. How is Dwane Casey to blame When in the regular season, and I understand there's a difference between regular season and playoffs, and that is true, but ultimately this guy was good enough as a head coach to get his team to 59 wins, but then in the playoffs they get swept. It's automatically his fault. Could it be the fact that DeRozan just mentally isn't tough enough to be the level of star you need? Is it maybe the fact that the combination of him and Lowry is the type of combination that wins you games in the regular season and doesn't win you games in the playoffs? Is it the fact that you assembled a poor supporting cast around them? You pay guys a lot of money, but that doesn't mean that they're actually the type of quality supporting cast of role players that you can actually win a championship with. Dwane Casey got hosed here. Dwane Casey got screwed, and what the hell else would you expect in today's NBA? Like, if you wanted to fire Dwane Casey, then be a retard, go ahead and do that. Then Masai should have been shown the fucking door first. People sit there and pump him so full of smoke like he's so great. What the hell has he done? He spends horrible money in free agency on guys that don't nearly produce to the level of their contract. His drafts have been, they haven't been transformative. He hasn't gotten a star out of the draft himself. And ultimately, he decided to go all in with two foundation guys for the Raptors that he didn't, and I emphasize again, he had nothing to do with bringing him there. DeMar DeRozan was drafted before he got there. Kyle Lowry was traded for before he got there. The head coach wasn't the problem. The general manager was the problem. But of course, because it's the NBA, the GM stays and the head coach goes. And that's bullshit. Somebody out there, the Pistons, the Bucks, somebody is going to get a quality head coach. And Masai Ujiri is still going to be a knucklehead that continues to politicize correct myself, skillfully use his connections and his politics to continue to get jobs and extensions and promotions for very lackluster production. Dwane Casey got screwed. Screw you, Masai Ujiri. And if I didn't say your last name right, I frankly don't give a fuck, because in the grand scheme of the NBA, you're not important enough or accomplished enough or, God forbid, good enough to be worried about how to say your damn name.